I'm Maya Johnson, 58 years old, and the founder of Nature's Bounty Markets. After decades of pouring my heart into building my organic grocery chain, I finally achieved the success I'd always dreamed of. But there was always an empty chair at my celebration table. My daughter Amanda hadn't spoken to me in 28 years, not since her father won custody when she was 12. Then last month, a surprising email arrived, an invitation to Thanksgiving dinner. Coincidentally, just after a magazine featured my Rags to Riches story, an 8-figure fortune. Before I tell you what happened at that Thanksgiving dinner, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to make a difficult choice about family. My story begins in Lakeville, Michigan, a small town where everybody knew everyone else's business. I grew up watching my mother work 2 jobs to support us after my father left when I was 8. She taught me that independence was a woman's greatest asset. I carried that lesson with me to college, where I studied business administration, with dreams of someday owning my own company. College was also where I met Thomas. He was charming, ambitious, and studying law. We were both 19 when we first bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop. I literally spilled my coffee on his economics textbook. Instead of getting angry, he laughed and asked me to dinner to discuss the damages. By our 3rd date, I was already imagining our future together. We married right after graduation when we were both 22. Thomas had been accepted to law school, and I took an entry-level job at a local grocery store to support us. Looking back, I can see how the pattern started early, my dreams taking a back seat to his. But I was young and in love, believing we would eventually build our dreams together. Amanda was born 3 years later when I was 25. The moment they placed her in my arms, I felt a love so overwhelming it nearly took my breath away. She had Thomas's dark curls and my green eyes, 10 tiny fingers that wrapped around my index finger with surprising strength. In those early years, Amanda was my shadow. We baked cookies together, planted a small vegetable garden in the backyard, and read stories every night before bed. As Thomas established his law career, I started dreaming again about having my own business. I'd always been passionate about healthy eating, something that grew stronger after becoming a mother. I wanted to create a small health food store that would make organic options more accessible to regular families. "It's just a hobby, right?" Thomas said when I first brought up the idea. "Something to keep you busy while Amanda's at preschool." But it wasn't a hobby to me. I started small, selling homemade granola and organic preserves at the local farmers market. Customers kept coming back, asking what else I offered. With each small success, my vision grew clearer. When Amanda turned 5, I converted our garage into a mini store. I called it Nature's First, stocking it with organic products I sourced from local farms. I operated just 3 days a week while Amanda was at kindergarten. The tension at home grew with each passing month. Thomas couldn't understand why I wasn't satisfied being just a wife and mother. "My colleagues' wives focus on supporting their husbands' careers and raising the children," he would say. "Why do you need something separate?" Despite the friction at home, those early years with Amanda were precious. She loved helping in our little garage store, proudly arranging items on shelves and charming customers. "My mommy makes the best food in the world," she would tell anyone who walked in. Each night, I tucked her into bed and told her she could be anything she wanted to be. As my small business grew, so did Thomas's resentment. He began working later, missing family dinners. When he was home, he would make subtle comments in front of Amanda. "Mommy loves her store more than spending time with us," or, "It's too bad Mommy can't be at your school event because of work." I tried balancing everything, being a present mother, a supportive wife, and nurturing my growing business. Most nights, I would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, handling paperwork after everyone was asleep. But no matter how I juggled things, Thomas made sure Amanda knew when I missed anything because of the store. By the time Amanda was 10, a small regional distributor approached me about supplying my homemade granola to stores across Michigan. It was my first big opportunity, and I was ecstatic. That night I prepared Thomas's favorite dinner and waited to share my news. "This is getting out of hand," he said after I told him. "You have responsibilities here to this family." "To our daughter." "I'm doing this for our family," I insisted. "For Amanda's future too. I want to show her that women can build something meaningful." Thomas slammed his hand on the table, making the plates jump. "What she needs is a mother who's present, not chasing some pipe dream." Amanda witnessed more arguments than I care to remember. I watched her slowly pull away from me, seeking her father's approval instead. Thomas became the fun parent who was never too busy for her, while I was increasingly portrayed as the distracted, absent mother, despite being the one who still handled most of the day-to-day parenting. The first time I saw Amanda look at me with genuine disappointment was when I missed her school play because a delivery truck had broken down and I needed to handle the crisis. I promised to make it up to her, but Thomas had already cemented the narrative business came before family for me. It wasn't true, but to an 11-year-old girl, perception becomes reality. When a regional grocery chain offered me a contract that would require significant expansion, Thomas delivered his ultimatum: choose Maya, your business or your family. Looking back, I should have seen that he never intended it to be a fair choice. He wanted me to abandon my dreams to remain dependent on him. When I suggested a compromise, he was already meeting with divorce attorneys. The day Thomas told me he wanted a divorce, Amanda was 12. I still remember her sitting at the top of the stairs listening as he told me he couldn't be married to someone who didn't put family first. The divorce itself was quick. The custody battle was what truly destroyed us all. Thomas hired the best family attorney in the state. I could only afford a newly minted lawyer who was overwhelmed by Thomas's legal team. In court, Thomas painted me as a workaholic mother who neglected her child in pursuit of business success. He brought in witnesses, neighbors, Amanda's teachers, even parents of her friends, who testified about the times I missed school events or was late for pickup because of work emergencies. What the court didn't hear about were the bedtime stories I never missed, the lunch notes I wrote every day, or how I rescheduled important meetings to attend doctor's appointments. They didn't hear about how Thomas would deliberately fail to tell me about school events until the last minute, setting me up to miss them. The most devastating blow came when Amanda testified. At 12 years old, coached by her father, she told the judge, "Mom is always working. Dad is the one who takes care of me." Each word felt like a physical pain. I could see Thomas's satisfaction as he watched me crumble on the witness stand the next day. The judge awarded primary custody to Thomas, with me receiving every other weekend visitation. Even those were soon sabotaged. Thomas would schedule unmissable activities during my weekends, or tell me Amanda wasn't feeling well. When I did get time with her, Amanda was withdrawn and hostile. "Why do I have to go with you?" she asked during one pickup. "Dad says you chose your store over me." I tried explaining that loving my work didn't mean loving her less, that building something could exist alongside being her mother. But Thomas had years to cement his narrative, and my weekend visits weren't enough to counter it. By the time Amanda entered high school, our relationship was barely existent. She would spend my visitation weekends locked in the guest room, emerging only for meals. My attempts at conversation were met with one-word answers. When I asked about school or friends, she would say, "Dad already knows all this stuff." I still sent birthday and Christmas gifts, called regularly, and tried to attend her school events when I knew about them. At her high school graduation, Thomas made sure I was seated in the back row, far from the family section. I watched from a distance as they took family photos without me. Amanda didn't even look for me in the crowd. When Amanda was 19 and in college, I tried reaching out directly, hoping that being away from her father's influence might open a door. I sent care packages to her dorm and emails checking in. Most went unanswered. The few responses I received were polite but cold. "Thanks for the package. I'm fine. School is good." The final heartbreak came when Amanda got married at 22, the same age I was when I married her father. I found out about the wedding through a mutual acquaintance. There was no invitation for me. I sent a gift anyway, a family heirloom necklace that had belonged to my grandmother, with a note telling her how much I loved her and would always be there when she was ready. The package was returned unopened. After that, I sent birthday and Christmas cards each year. Occasionally, I'd send a letter updating her on my life, always ending with, "I love you, and I'm here whenever you're ready." For 16 years, there was no response. Some cards and letters came back marked "Return to Sender." Others simply disappeared into silence. Through mutual connections, I learned that Thomas had remarried, that Amanda had finished college and started a career in marketing. Later, that she'd had 2 children, a boy and a girl, making me a grandmother I was never allowed to be. Each milestone I missed was another small death. Each year of silence, another wound that never fully healed. After years of unanswered letters and returned gifts, I poured myself into the one thing that hadn't rejected me: my business. Nature's Bounty Markets became my surrogate child, something I could nurture and watch grow. What had started as a small operation in my garage evolved into 3 stores, then 5, then 10, across Michigan and neighboring states. The pain of losing Amanda never diminished, but I learned to function around it. I developed a routine that kept me too busy to dwell on the emptiness, up at 5 each morning at the main store, by 6 visiting other locations throughout the day, reviewing expansion plans, meeting with suppliers, and often not returning home until 9 or 10 at night. It was during the opening of my 7th store that I met Eleanor Williams, a 60-year-old food distributor who specialized in organic produce. She took one look at my operation and said, "You've built something special here, but you're working yourself into an early grave." Eleanor became more than a business partner. She became the first true friend I'd had in years. She understood the drive that pushed me, having built her own company after divorcing at 40. Unlike others who, tired of hearing about my estrangement from Amanda, Eleanor listened patiently each time I needed to talk about it. "Grief doesn't disappear just because years pass," she told me. "You're mourning a living person, which in some ways is harder than mourning the dead." With Eleanor's distribution connections and my retail experience, we developed an innovative farm-to-store system that drastically reduced costs while ensuring freshness. We implemented a profit-sharing program with local farmers that guaranteed them fair prices and us reliable supply chains. What had begun as a personal passion for healthy food became a revolutionary business model. By my 50th birthday, Nature's Bounty Markets had grown to 27 stores across the Midwest. What I never expected was the call from Whole Earth Foods, a national chain interested in acquiring us. Their initial offer was 8 figures, a sum so large I actually laughed when my attorney mentioned it. "They're not buying just your stores," Eleanor explained. "They're buying your sourcing system, your relationships with farmers, and your brand loyalty." After months of negotiations, I agreed to sell a 60% stake in the company while staying on as a consultant. The deal made me wealthy beyond anything I'd imagined growing up in small-town Michigan. Suddenly, financial journals wanted interviews. Local business organizations gave me awards. Universities asked me to speak to their students. With financial security came the freedom to pursue other passions. I established the Maya Johnson Foundation, which provided grants and mentorship to single mothers starting businesses. I traveled to countries I'd only read about, studied cooking in Italy, and learned to scuba dive in my mid-50s. Throughout these years, I continued therapy. Dr. Levinson helped me work through both the grief of losing Amanda and my guilt over the choices I'd made. "You didn't choose business over family," she would remind me. "Thomas forced an unfair choice, then punished you for not surrendering your identity." Gradually, I built a life rich in meaning and connection, though the Amanda-shaped hole remained. I developed deep friendships with women in my philanthropic circles. I mentored young entrepreneurs who sometimes became almost like family. I even had a few romantic relationships, though none led to marriage. The wound from my first marriage had left me wary of legal entanglements. After 20 years of unanswered outreach, I made the painful decision to stop actively pursuing contact with Amanda. I still sent birthday cards with my updated contact information, but I stopped writing long letters that went unanswered and sending gifts that were returned. Dr. Levinson helped me see that respecting Amanda's apparent desire for no contact was also a form of love. Then, through our remaining mutual acquaintance, my former neighbor Susan, who had kept in occasional touch with both of us, I learned that Thomas had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The news gave me no satisfaction, only a complex mixture of emotions, lingering anger at what he'd done to our family, sadness for the man I had once loved, and concern for Amanda, who would soon lose the parent she had been closest to. I sent a condolence card when he passed 6 months later, including only my phone number and the simple message, "If you ever need anything, I'm here." For the first time in 28 years, I didn't expect a response. 2 months after Thomas's funeral, an email notification popped up on my phone. The sender, Amanda Johnson Ellis. My heart nearly stopped. I had to sit down in the middle of a board meeting, excusing myself with shaking hands. It took me 30 minutes in my office to gather the courage to open it. The message was brief and formal. "Mom, I hope this finds you well. I've been doing some thinking since Dad's passing and wonder if we might reconnect slowly. If you're open to it, perhaps we could start with email. Amanda." I read those 3 sentences perhaps 50 times, analyzing every word. Was this truly an olive branch, or was I setting myself up for more heartbreak? With trembling fingers, I composed a response, keeping it simple. "Amanda, I would love that. I'm here and ready whenever you are. With love, always, Mom." Our initial exchanges were awkward and superficial. She told me about her husband Patrick, an architect, and her children Tyler, 17, and Lily, 14. I shared basic information about my life, my business, my foundation, my home in northern Michigan. We carefully avoided any mention of the past of Thomas, of the 28 years of silence between us. Then came an email from Amanda mentioning she had seen a feature article about me in Business Insider. "I had no idea your company had grown so large," she wrote. "The article mentioned the sale to Whole Earth. That must have been quite a windfall." A small alarm bell rang in my head. The tone of the email felt different, more interested in my business success than in me as a person. In our next exchanges, Amanda began asking more questions about my work, my investments, my foundation. "Do you ever think about retirement?" she asked in one email. "Tyler is considering business schools, and I mentioned you might have insights on the best programs." Each message seemed to probe a little deeper into my financial situation. I found myself growing cautious, sharing less deflecting questions. I consulted Eleanor, who had become my closest confidant over the years. "I hate to say it," Eleanor said over lunch, "but the timing is suspicious. Her father dies, she discovers her estranged mother is wealthy, and suddenly she wants to reconnect. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't ignore the pattern. My suspicions grew when I decided to look at Amanda's social media profiles, something I hadn't done before out of respect for her privacy. What I found troubled me: posts complaining about financial struggles, mentions of Tyler's college tuition concerns, discussions about Patrick's architecture firm struggling since the pandemic. Then came the invitation, "We're hosting Thanksgiving this year and would love for you to join us. It would be a chance for you to meet Patrick and the kids. We have a lot of catching up to do." I sat with that email open for hours, conflicted. Part of me, the mother who had missed 28 years of her daughter's life, wanted to accept immediately to grasp this chance regardless of the motivation behind it. Another part, the businesswoman who had learned to trust her instincts, sensed ulterior motives. That night, I called Eleanor. "What if her intentions aren't pure?" I asked. "What if this is just about money?" "Then you'll know," Eleanor said simply. "But what if it's not? What if there's even a small chance at reconciliation? Could you forgive yourself for not trying?" The next day, I accepted the invitation. But I also made an appointment with my attorney to review my estate planning, ensuring that my hard-earned assets were protected regardless of what happened at Thanksgiving. I spent the weeks before the holiday in a state of anxious preparation. I bought thoughtful gifts for everyone. Books for Patrick based on his architectural interests that Amanda had mentioned, the latest gaming console for Tyler, art supplies for Lily, who Amanda said loved drawing. For Amanda, I chose a simple silver bracelet, not ostentatious, but quality that spoke of care rather than flaunting wealth. The night before my flight to Denver, where they lived, I barely slept. I was about to meet my grandchildren for the first time. I was about to sit across a table from the daughter who had been lost to me for nearly 3 decades. I packed and repacked my suitcase, rehearsed conversations, and tried to prepare myself for every possible scenario, knowing that nothing could truly prepare me for the emotional reality that awaited. As my plane descended toward Denver, I took deep breaths to calm my racing heart. Whatever Amanda's motives, I was determined to approach this reunion with openness, dignity, and the resilience that had carried me through the lonely years. The drive from the airport to Amanda's house in the suburbs of Denver gave me time to compose myself. The fall colors were at their peak, golden aspens lining the roads against a backdrop of distant mountains. I checked the address twice before pulling into the driveway of a handsome but not extravagant 2-story home in a well-established neighborhood. Amanda opened the door before I could ring the bell. At 40, she looked so much like I had at her age that it momentarily took my breath away. The same green eyes, though now framed by fine lines. The same dark hair, though she wore it shorter than I ever had. "Mom," she said, the words sounding strange after so many years. We stood awkwardly for a moment before she leaned in for a stiff hug. "Thank you for inviting me," I said, stepping into a home filled with the scent of roasting turkey and the sound of a football game on television. "Patrick, kids, she's here," Amanda called. Patrick appeared first, tall with kind eyes and graying temples. He shook my hand warmly. "It's good to finally meet you, Maya. Amanda has told us, well, some things about you." The awkwardness of his phrasing wasn't lost on me. Then came the moment I'd dreamed about for years, meeting my grandchildren. Tyler came downstairs first, a lanky teenager with his mother's dark hair and his father's height. He offered a polite, "Nice to meet you," that sounded rehearsed. Lily approached more cautiously, studying me with curious eyes. "You look like Mom," she said finally. "That's because Mom looks like me," I replied with a smile. "I was here first." Lily's serious expression broke into a small grin, and I felt the first genuine connection of the day. As Amanda showed me around their home, I noticed something odd. Framed articles about my business success displayed prominently on a side table, as though they'd been recently placed there. One was the Business Insider piece, another from Forbes' Women to Watch feature last year. "You've kept track of my career?" I asked, surprised. Amanda's cheeks colored slightly. "Recently, yes. You've accomplished impressive things." The conversation through the afternoon remained polite but strained. Amanda kept steering topics toward my business, the foundation, my life as a successful entrepreneur. I tried redirecting to learn more about her life, her children, but she seemed determined to focus on my achievements, or more specifically, the results of those achievements. During dinner, the questioning became more pointed. "So the foundation must require significant funding," Amanda said, passing the cranberry sauce. "Is that where most of your proceeds from the sale went?" Patrick looked uncomfortable. "Amanda, I'm sure your mother doesn't want to discuss finances at Thanksgiving dinner." "I'm just making conversation," Amanda replied. "It's not every day you learn your mother is practically a celebrity in the business world." "I'm hardly a celebrity," I said carefully. I was fortunate that my business model appealed to a larger company. But enough about me. Tyler. Amanda mentioned you're looking at business schools. As Tyler began talking about his college plans, Amanda interjected. Mom could probably help with tuition, right? I mean, the Business Insider article mentioned the sale was in the 8 figures. The silence that followed was excruciating. Amanda, Patrick said sharply. I set down my fork. I'd be happy to discuss Tyler's education another time, perhaps when we know each other better. The tension at the table was palpable. Lily looked between her mother and me with growing confusion. Tyler stared at his plate, embarrassed. After dinner, Patrick took the children out for ice cream, a transparent attempt to give Amanda and me privacy. As soon as the door closed behind them, the facade crumbled. So that's it, Amanda said, stacking plates with more force than necessary. You won't even help your own grandson with college. I took a deep breath. Amanda, I've been here less than 6 hours after 28 years of separation. Don't you think we should rebuild our relationship before discussing financial arrangements? What relationship? She snapped. The one you abandoned for your precious business. The accusation hit like a physical blow. Is that what you really believe, that I abandoned you? What else would you call it? You chose your stores over your family. Dad told me everything. How he begged you to focus on being a mother and wife. How you refused. Your father gave me an impossible choice, I said quietly, and then punished me for not choosing the option he wanted. Did he ever tell you about the letters I sent? The gifts? The birthdays and Christmases I tried to be part of? Amanda's expression faltered. What letters? What gifts? For years, I wrote to you every month. I sent birthday and Christmas presents. I tried calling until your father changed the number. I showed up for school events when I knew about them, only to be seated in the back, away from the family. Amanda shook her head. No. Dad said you were too busy, that you barely asked about me. Amanda, I have copies of some of those letters. After they started coming back marked return to sender, I kept them. I have records of gifts I sent that were returned unopened. Her hands trembled as she set down a glass. You're lying. Why would I lie? What would that accomplish after all these years? To make Dad look bad, to justify abandoning us. I closed my eyes briefly, gathering my strength. Amanda, I never abandoned you. Your father made sure I couldn't be part of your life and then told you it was my choice. I fought as hard as I could in the custody hearing, but his legal team was better. After that, every attempt I made to stay connected was blocked. Amanda's face had gone pale. No, that's not what happened. It is, and I think deep down you know there are parts of the story your father never told you. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. Why would Dad lie about that? Because he was hurt and angry. Because he wanted to punish me for not giving up my dreams. Because it was easier for him if you hated me. Then why didn't you fight harder? Her voice cracked. Why didn't you force your way back into my life? The question pierced my heart. Every time I tried, it seemed to make things worse. Your father threatened additional legal action. As you got older and began rejecting my attempts yourself, I had to respect what seemed to be your wishes. What would you have had me do? Kidnap you, force you to see me when you were saying you didn't want to? Amanda wiped away angry tears. So, you're saying this is all Dad's fault, that you were a perfect mother who was victimized? No, I said softly. I made mistakes too. I could have fought harder in court. I could have found better ways to reach you. I shouldn't have let the business consume so much of my time during those early years. We all failed you, Amanda, but I never stopped loving you. Not for one day in 28 years. The front door opened, and Patrick returned with the children. One look at Amanda's tear-streaked face and my own rigid posture told him the conversation had not gone well. Why don't I show you to the guest room, Maya? He said gently. It's been a long day for everyone. And as I followed him upstairs, I caught Lily watching me with thoughtful eyes. In that moment, I realized this visit would be much more complicated than I'd anticipated. And not just because of Amanda's financial motives. I woke early the next morning after a restless night. The guest room was comfortable with a window overlooking the backyard, where frost glittered on the grass. I checked my phone. No messages from Eleanor, who had promised to check in. It was too early to call her in Michigan. Wrapping myself in the robe I'd packed, I ventured downstairs, hoping to make coffee before anyone else was up. To my surprise, Patrick was already in the kitchen staring into a cup of what smelled like strong black coffee. "Morning," he said quietly. "Hope I didn't wake you." "No, I'm an early riser. Habit from decades of opening stores at dawn." He gestured to the coffee maker. "Help yourself. Amanda's still asleep. She was up late, pretty upset." I poured myself a cup, unsure what to say. Patrick saved me the trouble. "I want to apologize for yesterday," he said. "The financial questions were inappropriate." "Thank you, but I get the feeling they weren't entirely Amanda's idea." He had the grace to look embarrassed. "We've had some challenges lately. Medical bills mainly. Lily was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes last year. Our insurance covered most of it, but the out-of-pocket costs have been substantial. Then my firm lost a major client during the recession." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, genuinely concerned about Lily's health. "Is she doing okay?" "She's managing well, but it requires constant monitoring, special supplies. It adds up." He paused. "When Amanda saw that article about you, I think she saw a potential solution to our problems. I didn't discourage it as much as I should have." Before I could respond, Tyler appeared in the doorway, already dressed despite the early hour. "Morning," he said awkwardly. Grandma Maya, would you want to see some old family photos? I was thinking about what you and Mom were talking about last night, and I remembered there's a bunch of albums in the attic." Patrick and I exchanged surprised glances at both the offer and the use of Grandma Maya, the first time either grandchild had acknowledged our relationship. "I'd love that, Tyler. Thank you." Patrick excused himself to shower, and Tyler led me to a pull-down ladder in the hallway. "Dad showed me where these were when I was doing a family history project for school." The attic was surprisingly well organized, with labeled boxes lining the walls. Tyler pulled out a dusty album labeled Amanda, ages 12 to 18. "This would be right after you and Grandpa split up, right?" he asked. I nodded, throat tight, as he opened the album. The first pages showed Amanda at school events, at home with friends, a life I had been excluded from. But as we flipped through, something caught my eye. In one photo of Amanda's 13th birthday, there was a wrapped gift on the table with a card partially visible. "Can I see that closer?" I asked. Tyler handed me the album, and I stared in disbelief. The handwriting on the visible portion of the card was unmistakably mine. "That's my handwriting," I said softly. "I sent that gift. Your mother just told me last night she never received anything from me." Tyler looked confused. "Maybe Mom forgot." Maybe, but doubt had taken root. We continued through the album, and I spotted 3 more instances of gifts with my distinctive handwriting on cards or packages. At Christmas, another birthday, and what appeared to be a dance recital. "Tyler, are there any other boxes with Amanda's things from when she was younger?" He looked around. "There's that one labeled Amanda, keepsakes." The box was sealed with yellowed tape, apparently untouched for years. Inside were school projects report cards, and at the bottom, a smaller box. When I opened it, my heart stopped. Inside were dozens of unopened envelopes, my letters to Amanda spanning years. Beneath them were the smaller gifts I had sent: bookmarks, a charm bracelet, a music box. "Did you know about these?" I asked Tyler. He shook his head, looking troubled. "No, Mom always said you didn't keep in touch after the divorce." A sound from the attic entrance made us both turn. Lily stood on the ladder watching us. "Mom's up," she said. "She's looking for you, Tyler." "Tell her we'll be down in a minute," he replied, glancing uneasily at the box of unopened letters. When Tyler left, Lily climbed fully into the attic and approached curiously. "What's all that?" "Letters I wrote to your mother," I said. "Gifts I sent her. Things she never knew about." Lily studied me with an intensity unusual for a 14-year-old. "Grandpa Thomas didn't like people talking about you. Once I asked Mom about her mom, you, and he got really mad. Said you abandoned them and we shouldn't bring it up." "That wasn't true, Lily." She shrugged. "I figured. People don't usually get that angry about things unless they're hiding something." She picked up one of the unopened envelopes. "Are you going to show these to Mom?" "I'm not sure yet. It might hurt her to know her father kept these from her." "But isn't the truth better?" Lily asked, with the straightforward logic of youth. Before I could answer, we heard Amanda calling from downstairs. I carefully replaced the box, making a mental note of its location. As Lily and I descended from the attic, I was struck by how much her direct gaze reminded me of myself at that age, questioning everything, accepting nothing at face value. Downstairs, Amanda was in the kitchen with Patrick, their conversation stopping abruptly when I entered. "Good morning," I said, trying to sound normal despite the discovery upstairs. Amanda's eyes were red-rimmed. "Morning. I thought we might all go out for breakfast." The suggestion surprised me. I had been prepared for more confrontation after last night. But apparently, Amanda wanted to maintain appearances in front of the children. Breakfast at a nearby diner was a study in careful conversation. We discussed safe topics: the weather, the upcoming holiday season, the children's school activities. Tyler kept glancing between Amanda and me, clearly troubled by what we had discovered. Lily surprisingly engaged me in conversation about cooking, having learned from Amanda that I had studied culinary arts in Italy. "Maybe you could show me some recipes while you're here," she suggested. "I'd like that very much," I replied, touched by the olive branch. Patrick, meanwhile, seemed to be watching his wife carefully, as though expecting her to break. When Amanda excused herself to use the restroom, he leaned toward me. "She was up half the night looking through old papers of Thomas's," he said quietly. "I think you hit a nerve with what you said." When Amanda returned, she suggested the children show me around the neighborhood while she and Patrick prepared for the next day's Thanksgiving meal. It was a transparent attempt to separate us, but I agreed, grateful for the chance to know my grandchildren better. As we walked, Tyler finally asked the question that had clearly been bothering him. "Those letters in the attic, Grandpa Thomas kept them from Mom, didn't he?" "It appears that way," I said carefully. "That's messed up," Lily declared. "Mom should know." "It's complicated," Tyler told his sister. "Finding out your dad lied to you for decades isn't something you just spring on someone. But keeping the truth from her is just continuing the lie," Lily argued. Their maturity impressed me. "You're both right," I said. "The truth is important, but so is timing and compassion." When we returned to the house, Patrick met us at the door. "Amanda would like to speak with you, Maya. She's in the study." My heart raced as I followed his directions to a small room lined with bookshelves. Amanda sat behind a desk, several folders open before her. Her expression was unreadable. "Close the door, please," she said. As I did, I noticed what was on the desk. Financial statements from Thomas's accounts, bank records, and on top, one of my unopened letters. "I found this in Dad's filing cabinet," she said, gesturing to the letter. "It's dated 2 months after the divorce. There are dozens more." I sat down slowly. "Yes. He kept them from me. All these years he told me you never tried to contact me, that you were too busy with your new life." "I wrote to you every month for years," I said quietly. "I sent gifts for every birthday and Christmas. I called until he changed the number. I tried, Amanda. I tried so hard to stay in your life." "Why would he do this?" Her voice broke. "Why would he lie to me like this?" He was hurt, angry. He wanted to punish me, and the best way to do that was through you. Amanda pressed her fingers to her eyes. I built my entire life around the story that you abandoned us, that you chose your business over your family. It shaped everything. How I saw marriage, motherhood work, and now I find out it was built on lies. Not everything was a lie, I said gently. Your father did love you, Amanda. He was wrong to keep us apart, but his love for you was real. Was it, or was I just a weapon he could use against you? She looked up, eyes red. Do you know what I found in his financial records? Regular payments to Susan, your old neighbor. The same Susan who conveniently kept us both updated about each other over the years, always reinforcing the narrative that you were too busy for me. The revelation stunned me. Susan, the only link I'd had to Amanda's life, had been on Thomas's payroll. For 28 years, I've hated you, Amanda continued. And now, I don't know what to think. About you, about Dad, about anything. I wanted to reach for her hand, but held back. I made mistakes too, Amanda. I should have fought harder in court. I should have found better ways to reach you. There were times when work did take precedence when it shouldn't have. But you didn't abandon me. Never. Not for one day. Amanda picked up the unopened letter with trembling hands. I don't know if I can read these yet. I don't know if I'm ready to know what I missed. They'll be here when you are ready. She looked up at me, really seeing me, perhaps for the first time in decades. I did invite you for the money, she confessed. Our financial situation is worse than Patrick probably told you. We're facing bankruptcy if something doesn't change. Her honesty surprised me. Thank you for telling me the truth. But now I don't know what I want from you. The money would help, yes, but finding all this... She gestured to the letters and financial records. It's like my whole life has been a lie. I'm angry at Dad, but he's dead. I've been angry at you for decades, but maybe I was wrong. I don't know where to put all these feelings. You don't have to figure it out right now, I said. We have time. Amanda laughed bitterly. 28 years worth of catching up. If you want to. She looked at me for a long moment. I think I do, but not because of money. I need to understand who you really are, who Dad really was, who I am in all this. For the first time since arriving, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not because Amanda had absolved me, or because we had magically repaired decades of damage, but because there was honesty between us now. It was a beginning. I should tell you, I said carefully, that I've already set up education funds for Tyler and Lily. Regardless of what happens between us, those are secure. Amanda's eyes widened. When did you do that? Years ago, when I learned I had grandchildren. I hoped someday they might want to know me, and I wanted to be ready if that day came. For the first time, Amanda smiled. A small, uncertain smile, but genuine. You're not what I expected. Nor you, I replied. But maybe that's a good place to start. I extended my visit beyond Thanksgiving weekend, rearranging meetings and asking Eleanor to handle several foundation commitments. Something fragile was beginning between Amanda and me, something worth nurturing. The actual Thanksgiving dinner was nothing like I had imagined. Instead of the tense, transactional meal I had feared, there was a raw honesty around the table. Amanda had shared some of her discoveries with Patrick and the children, and while the conversation sometimes faltered into awkward silences, there was also laughter, particularly when Lily demanded stories about Amanda as a child. Was Mom always so organized? She asked, teasing her mother about the elaborate Thanksgiving planning spreadsheet Amanda had created. Always. I confirmed. At 5 years old, she color-coded her crayons and got upset if anyone put them back in the wrong order. Amanda rolled her eyes but smiled. Great, now they'll have ammunition against me. These small moments of connection accumulated over the following days. Lily and I spent an afternoon baking Italian cookies, my hands guiding hers, as she learned to roll the dough just so. Tyler showed me his business plan for a campus delivery service he hoped to launch at college. Patrick shared his architectural sketches, his passion evident as he described sustainable building materials. With Amanda, progress came in quieter ways. Each evening after the others went to bed, we sat in the kitchen with tea, slowly unpacking the decades of misunderstanding between us. She read some of my letters, not all at once, the emotion too overwhelming, and asked questions about my life, my business, my regrets. "Did you ever remarry?" she asked one night. "No, there were relationships but nothing permanent." Because of what happened with Dad, I considered this. Partly, but also because my life became full in other ways. The business, the foundation, friends mentoring young entrepreneurs. I wasn't opposed to finding love again, but I didn't need it to feel complete. Amanda nodded slowly. I understand that now. For years I thought you must be this cold, career-obsessed woman who couldn't love properly. But seeing you with the foundation, how you mentor those women, it's not cold at all. It's just a different kind of nurturing. On my last night in Denver, I helped Amanda prepare dinner while Patrick helped the kids with homework. As we chopped vegetables side by side, she broached the subject we'd been circling. About our financial situation, she began. I set down my knife. Amanda, you don't need to. Please let me finish. Yes, when I first contacted you, I had hopes that your money might solve our problems. But after everything we've learned, everything we've talked about, I don't want that kind of relationship with you. I studied her face, so like my own. What kind do you want? A real one. One based on getting to know each other again, not on financial need. Patrick and I will figure out our situation. We may need to downsize, adjust our lifestyle, but we'll manage. And if I want to help, not out of obligation, but because I care about you all. Amanda considered this. I'd rather have your guidance than your checkbook. You built a business from nothing. Maybe you could help us develop a plan to get through this rough patch. Her answer surprised and touched me. I'd be honored to help that way. Later that night, I spoke with Eleanor on the phone, updating her on the dramatic shifts of the past week. So, not just a money grab after all, she commented. There was that element initially, I admitted. But there's more here, Eleanor. A chance for something real. I'm happy for you, Maya. Cautiously happy. That's where I am too. Cautious hope. Before leaving the next morning, I had private moments with each family member. I gave Tyler my contact information for whenever he wanted business advice. I promised Lily we would video chat about cooking. With Patrick, I shared resources for financial planning and potential architectural clients in my network. With Amanda, the goodbye was both harder and easier than I had anticipated. This isn't an ending, I told her as we stood by my rental car. It's a beginning if you want it to be. I do, she said. I can't promise it will be easy. I have decades of programming to overcome. We both do, but I think it's worth trying. We hugged. A real embrace this time, not the stiff formality of my arrival. As I drove away, I felt lighter than I had in 28 years, even as tears blurred the road ahead. Back in Michigan, I maintained my promise to give Amanda and her family space to process everything while remaining available. We established regular video calls, weekly with Amanda, bi-weekly with the grandchildren. I adjusted my approach to Tyler's education fund, working with him directly on applying for scholarships while keeping the fund as a backup. When Lily asked to visit during spring break, I converted my home office into a bedroom specifically for her, decorated with art supplies and cookbooks. Amanda was hesitant at first, but ultimately supported the visit, recognizing her daughter's genuine connection with me. 3 months after Thanksgiving, Amanda called with news. She had started therapy to work through her feelings about Thomas's deception and our estrangement. "I need to understand why I was so willing to believe the worst about you," she explained. "Why I never questioned Dad's version of events." "That's brave," I told her. "Truly." In April, Tyler was accepted to his top choice business school with a partial scholarship. When he called to tell me, he ended the conversation with "Love you, Grandma," words that brought me to tears after we hung up. By summer, Lily and Tyler both came to stay for 2 weeks. Amanda and Patrick joined for the final weekend, their first visit to my home. I watched Amanda take in the photographs on my walls, many of my business milestones, but also the few school pictures of her I'd managed to obtain over the years prominently displayed. "You really never forgot about me," she said wonderingly. "Not for one day," I assured her. With Patrick, I spent time reviewing their financial situation, offering concrete strategies rather than handouts. They had already begun implementing changes, downsizing to a smaller home, Patrick taking on teaching assignments to supplement his architectural work, Amanda increasing her marketing consultancy hours. They would weather their financial storm on their own terms, with my guidance, but not my checkbook. As the months passed, our relationship deepened. There were still difficult conversations, moments of tension when old wounds were accidentally reopened. But there was healing too, genuine connection, growing from the painful truth rather than comfortable lies. The following Thanksgiving, almost exactly a year after our reunion, they all came to my home in Michigan. As we prepared dinner together, I watched Amanda teaching Lily my mother's cranberry sauce recipe, a family tradition I had shared with her during one of our calls. Tyler and Patrick were watching football, occasionally shouting at the television, completely comfortable in my space. Later, as we sat around the table, Amanda raised her glass. "I'd like to make a toast," she said, "to second chances, to truth, even when it's painful, and to family. Not the idealized version we imagine, but the real, complicated, wonderful people we actually are." We clinked glasses, and I felt a sense of completeness I had never expected to experience again. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. But because we were all there, present and honest with each other. After dinner, Amanda found me alone in the kitchen. "I need to say something," she began. "Something I should have said months ago. I'm sorry, Mom, for believing the worst of you for so many years, for not questioning Dad's story, for reaching out initially because of money rather than genuine desire for connection. Amanda, please let me finish. I've been working through this in therapy. What Dad did was wrong, but I was an adult for many of those years. I could have reached out on my own, tried to hear your side. I didn't, because the narrative was comfortable. It was easier to have a villain in my story than to face the complexity of what really happened." I took her hands in mine. "We all made mistakes. What matters is what we do now moving forward." "I love you, Mom," she said simply. It took 29 years and a lot of painful truth to say that, but I do. "I love you too," I replied. I never stopped. That night, as my house quieted with my family asleep under my roof, I sat in my study reflecting on the journey. The pain of those 28 years would always be part of our story. The time lost could never be reclaimed. But what we were building now was something new and precious. A relationship based on truth, on seeing each other as we really were. True wealth, I realized, had nothing to do with the figures in my bank accounts. It was measured in moments like these, a house full of family relationships healing the truth, bringing freedom rather than fear. If you've ever experienced family estrangement or faced difficult truths about your past, I hope my story gives you courage. Sometimes the hardest paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Leave a comment sharing your own experience with family reconciliation, what worked, what didn't, and what you learned along the way. And if this story touched you, please subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear that second chances are possible, even after decades of silence. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late for truth to heal what lies have broken.